Hey guys, so we are here today to talk about Gabbie Hanna again? Kind of. So, if you missed one of my last videos, I talked about Alex James put up a video about Gabbie Hanna, and I kind of thought his video was trash and pointless, not gonna lie. His video just didn't touch on a lot of the points in Gabbie's video, and specifically the timeline, which is what Gabbie was really pulling at. He kind of just glossed over it. So now he did put up a video about the timeline, correcting her timeline, and with receipts. So I wanted to film a video about this. It's been up for about a week now, but Alex's energy is chaotic to say the least, and so is Gabbie's. So trying to get their two stories straight and compare their timelines was not easy. And while Alex claimed that he had dug through his bag of receipts and found every last morsel to prove Gabbie wrong, he didn't show a lot of receipts in the video, which I will touch on in this. So I had to do some sleuthing of my own. And so today we're gonna go through the timeline, his timeline, Gabbie's timeline, what we can find that is real, or at least what is agreed upon throughout them, what this means, and if this exonerates Alex. So before you do this video, subscribe to my channel. I upload twice a week, and I think you should stick around. More fun here, I thank you. Do commentary, curvy girl style, whatever I'm feeling. So hit the subscribe button. I will have a curvy girl Shein haul coming soon. Okay, so I have extensive notes, so we'll be referring to them throughout this video. So the timeline starts in 2013. So in 2013, there are multiple tweets going back and forth between Alex James and Jessi Smiles that seem friendly. Now, at this point, Alex says that him and Jessi are not friends. That he talks a lot about in his original video about how they're just people on the internet to him at this point, which I can understand because, I mean, I kind of go back and forth on this because yes, I understand like you can have acquaintances on the internet, people like you know on the internet who aren't necessarily your friends, but I also think that he makes this point in this video how like he's trying to dig at Gabbie about how like, oh, you don't even think you have to hang out with somebody to be friends with them, Gabbie, and talk like kind of digging at the Trisha Paytas situation. But like you can 100% be friends with people that you've never hung out with. I met my husband on the internet. He lived in Texas, I live in Canada at the time, and I loved him long before I met him for the first time. So like that was a relationship even though we had never hung out in person. So I don't really like that connotation, but we're starting there. And then in October of 2013, Alex James flies out to Miami because him and Jessi were both invited to an event. He has like the screenshot of the event there. And now what's funny is that in the original Gabbie's video about how Alex is lies, it just says that they like hung out while they were in Miami and that, they filmed content together, but actually, Alex James actually stayed with Jessi at her house. And I don't know about you, but when I let a man stay with me as a single woman, usually they're my friend, because in order for, I mean, I know he's gay, but still, in order for a woman to let a man stay with her in her, really for me to let anyone stay with me in my house, they have to be my friend, not just someone on the internet. So I really do think that this kind of already undercuts his whole story about how he wasn't really friends with Jessi when the whole situation went down. This was in October of 2013. Then in his video, he also says the first time he met Curtis was at Nash Greer's house in November or December of 2013. Gabbie refutes this by saying that they went on a tour together in 2013. Now, Alex does provide proof in his video that this tour was canceled. So, although I will say the proof he shows is an email from a fan that's like very upset that all of the Viners pulled out and they had already purchased tickets and people were being like replaced and that they weren't getting refunds and stuff. So it really feels like Alex is just showing me proof that he made a really poor business decision and didn't give a fuck about his fans, because he talks about how like, oh, the guy who's in charge didn't really know what he was doing. So that's why we pulled out. But it's like, so wait, did you pull out of an event because the guy seemed sketchy, but like you didn't worry about your fans getting refunds? I mean, besides the point, and also he provides no actual proof about the issues that were happening on the tour. Like I'm assuming you would have had emails with the tour people canceling it, but all he shows is a fan emailing him saying, hey, this tour has been canceled and it's fucked up, we're not getting refunds. So like a strange receipt, if you ask me. So then November/December of 2013 is when he meets Curtis for the first time at Nash Greer's house. So at this point, Jessi has already been assaulted by Curtis. Alex says that everyone in the Vine community knows about it, but this is before the TMZ article comes out, and this is where he says like, oh, they're just people on the internet and we like kind of heard about it, but it's whatever, which like, okay. But then he says that he heard that Curtis was coming to Nash Greer's house, and Alex called Jessi beforehand to let her know that Curtis would be coming over and to see if she would be okay with him hanging out with Curtis. I'm sorry, she wasn't your friend at this point though? This is lie number one, and this is red fucking flag number one. The entire story about Alex James, the reason that no one has been able to hold him accountable for this is because he claimed that he was friends with both Curtis and Jessi at the time before the assault, and then the assault happened and he just tried to stay neutral. But this right here, this video he uploaded, proves that he was friends with Jessi, had met her, called her to ask if it was okay to hang out with Curtis. But this was the first time he was meeting Curtis, and by his own admission, if you don't hang out with somebody, you're not friends. So at this point, you're friends with Jessi, because if Jessi wasn't your friend, you would not call her to ask her if it was okay to hang out with the person who assaulted her, which is fucked up in itself, and I think he does mention that in the video. But like, you would not call her and ask her if it was okay if you were not already friends. So this is just proof, to me at least, that you were already friends with Jessi at the time you first met Curtis. So you're lying. That's lie number one, is that you were not friends with both of them before the assault. And also that like acting like you weren't friends with Jessi at all at that time is ridiculous, because you clearly were, because you called her. He says that Curtis tried to bring up the Jessi situation and that like Alex just kind of like brushed it off and like didn't want to talk about it. He basically said that Jessi was one of my friends, so I didn't want to talk about it, which again, I thought Jessi wasn't your friend yet at this point. And also I thought you were already friends with Curtis before it happened. Interesting. So then Alex talks about how he has to go to LA in February. He's going there from February 1st to 28th for something with like Marlon Wayans or something. And he has an Airbnb, and Curtis says like, oh, well, if you want to come early, you can stay with me. And again, Alex says, before I ever agreed to go to Curtis's or stay with Curtis, I called Jessi to confirm that it was okay for her. He does say that it was gross to put Jessi in this position, which it absolutely was, because like, I fucking hate when people ask you for permission to do sketchy shit and you're put in an awkward position, and like, she has no choice but to say yes, because if she says no, she knows she's gonna either look like a bitch or potentially lose one of the few friends that she has at the time when she's going through the most traumatic moment of her life. Like, you were a shitty friend to Jessi in these moments. I just want to make that very fucking clear. And the fact that you aren't acknowledging that is pathetic, because again, I don't think what you did was unthinkable. I really think that Alex is hiding behind the Gabbie Hanna hate train and using her as a giant fucking shield to detract from the fact that he was a terrible friend and an R-word apologist, because he, again, is staying with her R-word. Maybe the article didn't come out yet, but he knew what happened. They all in the Vine community had heard what happened. Curtis had talked to him about what happened at this point. Obviously, he didn't tell him the truth about what happened, but he had still mentioned it in passing, so he knew what happened. And he still is associating with Curtis in these times and putting Jessi in shitty situations. He also does say that he should not have stayed neutral in the situation, which is very true. And then he goes on to say that him and Jessi's weren't besties at this time. Like, this is where he goes on to be like, Gabbie, you mentioned that, like, I just called them people on the internet, but, like, I was just, like, friendly with them on the internet, but you had already stayed at her house. Curtis is asking for you to stay, offering for you to stay at his house. Like, that is things friends do for each other. I'm not sure, like, do you and Gabbie need to go to a course on, like, the definition of friendship? Like, I understand that certain people can have different definitions of friendship, but this is just ridiculous to me. And I mean, also, you again called her to ensure that it was okay for you to stay with Curtis, so like, that's something a friend would do. I mean, actually, you know what, maybe you weren't friends, because a real friend would just not associate with their friend's R-word. So maybe you're right. So then on January 16th, 2014, the TMZ article comes out. It becomes public knowledge what happened. And then January 20th, 2014 is when Alex James goes to LA 10 days early. His Airbnb is booked for February 1st to February 28th. So he goes 10 days early to stay with Curtis. So keep in mind, this is 4 days after the TMZ article has come out. It is now very public knowledge. This is no longer just like insider Vine drama. It's very public knowledge that he assaulted Jessi, and you are staying with him because you wanted to stay neutral. R-word apology. This is where in his original video he goes, as soon as Curtis told me what happened, my Airbnb was ready the next day, honey, and I was out of there. So he claims that he stayed with Curtis and that on January 28th, Curtis told him the story of what happened. Now he says during this is not Curtis telling him the truth of what happened. This is him telling him his lies. He also claims in the original video he left this part vague in respect for Jessi, and that's why it looked confusing in the timeline, because Jessi obviously said she didn't want the public information of what happened that night to be out there, but like, that seems like a cop-out to me, because you don't need to tell me specifically what Curtis told you in order to make your timeline straight. You could just say Curtis told me what happened that night and still tell me the interactions between you and Curtis and your physical movements as a fucking human being. But you didn't do that because you knew it would make you look bad. So again, like, it just like feels like, again, Alex is just kind of like talking in circles and trying to evade his own accountability. Gabbie Hanna vibes. So this is where Curtis tells him his lie of what happened, and Alex is like, you know what, fuck this, I'm out. January 28th, he goes, I emailed my Airbnb person to ask them if I could check in early because I was done with Curtis. Now, in this video, again, he shows a screenshot of him emailing his Airbnb lady to prove he had the Airbnb. Her name is Mary. But the only email is about parking in the area. But like, and then he doesn't show anything else, but like, if you're claiming that you reached out to your Airbnb lady and left Curtis's place early because you couldn't deal with him and you needed out of that place immediately, and that's why you got your Airbnb ready early, where's the proof of that receipt? If you have emails from her asking where fucking parking is, you should have the email correspondence asking to check in early. But you don't have that. You don't have any receipts to show that you checked in early. You showed your one reservation booking from the 1st to the 28th, but you didn't show up earlier. So like, I'm very confused about all these receipts you have, but then you conveniently don't have that receipt. So I find it very difficult to believe this. That's just me. I'm a cynical person. But then from January 21st to 2014, there are pictures posted, obviously, of Curtis and, oh, this probably should have been before the January 28th thing. Sorry, my timeline is just mixed up right here. So they post pictures together on Twitter. Now, in the original video of Alex James' lies, there's lots of pictures posted with Curtis and Alex on Twitter, and Curtis goes, you posted all these pictures, but like half of them are from the 4-day span where I was staying with him, which is true, some of them are, but however, there are 4 other pictures that show that he was hanging out with him between February and April of that year, and there are also over 17 vines between the two of them where they're collabing with each other between that time span as well. So sure, maybe there's not 26 photos of you guys together, but even after Curtis told you his lies that made you so sick that you left his house and checked into your Airbnb earlier, you still hung out with him multiple times and collabed with him. So that's why I find it very difficult to believe your story. Sorry. Because then again, he's in LA from February 1st to 28th, right? So he posts a picture with Curtis on February 10th on Twitter. There's a picture of them together posted by Christian Del Grosso on March 7th. Curtis posted a picture of them together on Twitter on March 16th. April 5th, a fan posted a picture with both of them together on Twitter. April 9th, he tweets about loving having long phone calls with Jessi. So like, it's very clear to me that like you were just juggling these two friendships and you obviously didn't take Jessi's trauma seriously at all. And again, I'm not even that mad about this. What I'm mad about is the fact that you refuse to take any accountability, because his whole statement he says in here is like, Gabbie, the issue is that like you were never friends with Curtis, whereas I was friends with Jessi and Curtis at the same time. But sure, your friendship with Curtis may have started not long after the allegations, but you were still friends with Jessi first. It's very clear from the fact that you literally called Jessi to ask her if hanging out with Curtis was okay. That means you were friends with Jessi before you met Curtis, and you made a conscious decision to ignore her abuse and her assault because you wanted to hang out with Curtis because it would give you clout. And again, I don't fucking care. I just want you to take accountability for it. Tell your audience why it's shitty of you and say, I've apologized to Jessi for this and we're okay. But like, and you know what? Jessi has forgiven you and we all have to accept that. But you probably have thousands of fans that follow you who are SA victims who look at that and say, okay, like Jessi forgave you, but that's still fucked up completely. So then, again, there's Vine collabs from them from January to April 2014. In May of 2014, the Rolling Stone article comes out where Curtis denies assaulting Jessi. He says, I didn't do anything to this girl, which is absolutely fucking disgusting. May 2014, he tells this really weird story that seems to make no sense. He says that Curtis was shit-talking him at this event, and then someone came up to him and was like, hey, Curtis is shit-talking you. They were at an event for The Purge movie, May 24th, 2014 in New Orleans. And he says that he went up to Curtis and started swinging, and like, first of all, he starts acting like this is hilarious when later on in the video he denies being violent towards Gabbie or threatening violence towards Gabbie, which like, there is no reason to be swinging on people in public. Like, grow the fuck up. You want to go over and talk shit to him. First of all, I would have been like, oh, that, because he was like, oh, people came up to me and said that this guy's talking shit about me. And I would have been like, oh, that guy, you mean the R word? Let me tell you that he's an R word. And then everyone will be like, wow, fuck this guy. The end. But okay, and then he says like, oh, Curtis started recording me, so like I obviously became calm because like you're not gonna catch me throwing hands. And he goes, Curtis posted the video on Twitter, which I could find no proof of because I went back and looked through all Curtis's tweets. It's possible he deleted it. Alex says, I tweeted something like, don't forget that you told me what you actually did to Jessi, which again, doesn't exist. Like literally in the video, Alex says, I tweeted something, but I don't really remember what it was. But he does, like, you don't remember, then fucking look it up. Did you delete the tweet? Because he doesn't mention deleting the tweet. He just says he tweeted this thing but can't remember it, but he looks, and I went and looked during that time frame and can't find anything towards Curtis about that. And then that's the end of that story. So like I think he's trying to prove to us that like he had Jessi's back and he was against Curtis now at this point, but like it took you until after the Rolling Stone article came out. It took you 5 months to finally realize that what you did was fucked up. And you know what? That's fine, but then admit that what you did was fucked up. Take some real accountability for your actions. No, we don't do that on YouTube. So then he tells this other bizarre story, and this is where things get weird. So he says, from June 20th to 22nd, 2014, there was an event at the Mike Tyson mansion for The Hangover. In Las Vegas. This is where he met Gabbie for the first time, and he claims that he got Curtis Lepore kicked out of this event, that he saw him there and he went up to the girl who was running it and was like, I can't believe that Curtis is here, don't you know what he did? And he showed her the articles, and the girl kicked Curtis out, and that Gabbie Hanna was like, oh my god, where did Curtis go? I wanted to tell him I'm so sorry for what he went through. And this is apparently, supposedly, after Gabbie had apologized to Jessi. Now, I couldn't find the date of when they met up and apologized. I could not listen to the 3-hour phone call again, guys. I'm really sorry. So that's his claim. And then he says that he told Gabbie everything that happened between Curtis and Jessi. And then Gabbie says, well, that's not what I heard. And like, here's the thing. I'm all for questioning Gabbie, but like, this story just fits too perfectly into the hatred for Gabbie Hanna for me. Like, if this is after Gabbie had apologized to Jessi and they were becoming friends, and Alex was already friends with Jessi at this point, if this had happened, wouldn't Alex have told Jessi? Wouldn't this have made it impossible for Jessi and Gabbie to become friends? Like, it's very confusing to me about this story. And now, what's even more confusing about this story is that I went back and looked at Curtis's tweets, Alex's tweets, and Gabbie's tweets from that weekend. Now, it's tricky because the event itself was from June 20th to the 22nd. Now, Gabbie tweeted from the mansion on the 21st, so it's possible they were only there for the one day. However, on June 20th of 2014, the weekend of this event, Curtis tweets about being at the Warped Tour in Pomona, which is in California, which is, I believe, about a 5-hour drive from Las Vegas. There are multiple pictures of him at Warped Tour all day. If you've ever been to a festival before, you know that it's a full day event. Usually it starts at about 1 or 2, goes to wee hours of the night. There are pictures of him with fans, from fan tweets, from his own tweets throughout the entire day into the evening. So on the 20th, it's pretty clear he could not have been at this event. And then on June 21st, which is the day again that Gabbie tweets from the event, so there's proof that Gabbie is there. Curtis tweets about being lazy and sunburnt and about the middle of the day. He doesn't seem to be at a Warped Tour event, so is it possible that he left Warped Tour and then drove 5 hours to Vegas for this event the next day? Totally. However, the day after that, he's back at Warped Tour again, this time in Ventura. Again, there are tons of fan pictures that confirm this. So I'm not saying that Alex is lying. What I'm saying is that the tweets do cast doubt on this situation. And when you do stuff like say like, oh, this is from the 20th to the 22nd, and you don't give me firm dates, then I don't know what is true and what isn't. I don't know what date the event actually was. When were you there? When was Curtis there? When did this happen? If it happened on the 21st, it's possible, but then again, it's like, did he then drive another 5 hours back to California for Warped Tour again? Like, I mean, again, totally possible, but just like strange to me. And again, like, I don't know what that story was trying to prove except for saying that like Gabbie is a shitty person and I'm great because I got Curtis kicked out. Like, it just felt very, like I said, it fit too perfectly into the story of how awful Gabbie was. But if Gabbie became friends with Jessi after this, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I totally believe that Gabbie is vindictive when she's not friends with somebody anymore. And so her trying to like reach out to Curtis and fuck around with Jessi after totally makes sense to me. But for this situation, just, I don't know. There's something about it doesn't fit right for me. And I think that people will just believe this story so easily because the Gabbie hate train is fucking full speed ahead. And like I will say over and over again, and I said multiple times on this channel, what Gabbie has done is unforgivable, is awful. She needs to take accountability for it. She is and was an R-word apologist. But I think that because everyone has an opinion, it's easy to spread more lies about her when I would rather hold her accountable to things we have evidence for. So then he talks about the 2016 collab with Curtis. Now his story is that Curtis reached out to him to apologize because I guess Curtis had called him the F slur and spit on him and had done other things, which like he also didn't mention until this point, so wonder if that's true. And Alex says that he called Jessi to again ask her if this was okay, which like once again you're putting Jessi in a terrible situation. Now Alex, I think, does say in this spot that he understands that he shouldn't have asked Jessi this. I don't remember. He said it like once or twice in the video, but not enough. Now, again, in Alex's original video, he claimed that Curtis had yet to deny the allegations at this point, which is a lie because he had already been sentenced years before this. He was sentenced, I believe, in April of 2014. So that's a lie, but he doesn't touch on that at all in this video. Classic. And I mean, also, even if Curtis hadn't denied any of the allegations against Jessi, like I don't care. I don't care because you're my friend. Oh, and actually, I totally missed this part, and I went right to the event. But in April 23rd of 2014 was when Curtis was sentenced, and between April 4th and 23rd, Alex says that Curtis cries and tells him exactly what happens and admits to R-wording Jessi, admits that she was asleep to him. So just to be clear, it's 2016. You know that Curtis R-worded your friend. He calls you to apologize to you and asks you to do a collab, and you call Jessi to make sure it's okay, and you're taking no accountability for this situation. So he's like, yeah, so I just did it. And then he goes, I got eaten alive by Jen Dent after the fact because she was like, why the fuck would you do this? And then in this fucking video, Alex goes, well, Jen kind of showed me Curtis's manipulation because he's now using me to say that what he didn't happen, because if it did happen, why would Jessi's friend collab with me? And that's because your friend's an R-word apologist. Hi, Alex, that's you, not just Gabbie. And he's like, yeah, he basically tries to pass the buck to Curtis, saying that he was manipulated by Curtis to do it, but all Curtis did was fucking apologize to you and then ask you to do it. You're a grown-ass fucking man, and the person who assaulted one of your best friends asked you to collab 2 years later after he was convicted, after he supposedly confessed to you what happened, and that's fine? That's Curtis manipulating you? Like, no. Once again in this video, Alex skates over and glosses over the actually important parts where he should be taking accountability for his own actions. I don't give a fuck if Jessi forgave you. What you did was fucked up, and Jessi may have forgiven you, but there are people out there who have suffered SA, and I know that you have as well, but that doesn't make it okay for you to hang out with Curtis, to continue collaborating with him. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and you were a terrible fucking friend to Jessi, and the fact that you can't just sit on fucking camera and say that you're just using this to attack Gabbie Hanna because it's fucking easy is pathetic. I'm sorry. That's what I think. I know a lot of people are like all on up Alex's ass and they think he's fucking great for this, but like, it's disgusting. I mean, Alex even says that when he's sitting with Curtis, he asked Curtis if he wants to get off his chest what happened that night. He's the one that asked Curtis to hear his side of the story. So here's a question. You were friends with both Gabbie and Curtis, or sorry, both Jessi and Curtis, and you asked Curtis for his side of the story, but it's fucked up that Gabbie did the same thing? I mean, yeah, it's fucked up that Gabbie did it, but it's also fucked up that you did it. It's fucked up that you knew Jessi first, that you were clearly friends with her first, and that you still decided to be friends with Curtis for clout. Let's be real, it's why you did it. It's because Curtis was a big deal on the platform and you didn't want to have to be the person to put it aside. You know, while Gabbie Hanna bitches and complains about everything that she lost from being friends with Gabbie, or being friends with Jessi, from taking Jessi's side, it looks like you were too pussy to do that. You were too pussy to take any losses of your own. You didn't want to have to be put in the middle, put in uncomfortable situations, so you just let an R-word be friends with you because it was easier. And that's fucked up, and it's more fucked up that you refuse to see it or acknowledge it. So that is the timeline. I don't think the timeline exonerates Alex in the way that he thinks it is, and I think it's because he doesn't think people will actually sit here and break down the timeline. He is definitely using the Gabbie Hanna hate as an easy way to get out of this. It's very clear to me, and I think it's gross, and I think that he should take some accountability, and like, I don't know why it's so fucking hard for people on the internet to take some goddamn accountability. Like, I'm not even that mad. I'm mad. But I wouldn't be mad if he just said, you know what, guys? I was a fucked up friend. It was a long time ago. I believed Jessi, but I was such a pussy ass bitch that I didn't want to have to choose sides. I didn't want to have to make a decision that might negatively affect my career, so I kept hanging out with Curtis, and I am ashamed of myself, and I am disgusted in myself, and what I did was absolutely fucking wrong, and here are the 10 reasons why, and the position that I put Jessi in was absolutely wrong, but instead this whole video is framed as Gabbie Hanna is a liar, and all the things that Gabbie Hanna got wrong, and it's just like, that's not what we fucking need from you, Alex. The whole internet knows that Gabbie Hanna is a lie. We all know at this point you're just making this series to A, cover your own ass, and B, get views and make some fucking money. But I don't need that from you. What I need from you is some real goddamn accountability and some real acceptance that you fucked up in the past and you did something wrong. And maybe Gabbie Hanna calling you a liar isn't enough for you. You know, you don't take her seriously. I'm calling you a liar. Your dates don't add up. Things don't add up. You claim to have all these receipts, and there were little to no receipts in this video. And I just think that, like, overall, all Alex has done is tell me more and more and more information that has made me think that Alex is a trash person. I'm just like annoyed, and I now don't like Alex. He's apparently gonna post another video about this time he kicked Gabbie out of his house, but like, I don't fucking care. What I want is for you to have a real conversation with your audience about why you did what you did and why it was fucked up, and why we need to believe women, because you really didn't kind of hammer that home, and you kind of just slid over everything and framed this all in the guise of why Gabbie Hanna is trash. And like, bitch, we already know that Gabbie Hanna has done some awful shit, that Gabbie Hanna is awful, but all you've done is shown me that you might be, okay, you're not just as awful as Gabbie, but you've also done some awful shit. And just because Gabbie's awful shit is worse than your awful shit, it does not make your awful shit not bad. Just like I said about Gabbie when she was trying to pull you under the bus. I mean, honestly, she kind of successfully did make me think that you're trash, but your videos solidified it. So I would love to know what you guys think down below about this whole situation. Is Alex just using this to pander and get views and make some fucking money? Do you actually believe his stories? The more he talks, the more I don't believe him. The more he talks, the more I'm convinced that he was a shitty friend to Jessi and an R-word apologist, and he refuses to accept that. Just like Gabbie. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!